Welcome to the Parent Yap. I'm Maddie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily.
And today we are yapping about grandparents.
For a bunch of reasons, one being that it's Grandparents' Day this week.
Yes. And we love grandparents and the role that they play in our lives.
Happy Grandparents' Day, grandparents. My my grandparents, unfortunately, they're not listening, but my
R.I.P.
parents very well could be, and they are grandparents. So happy Grandparents' Day, parents.
Yeah, happy Grandparents' Day to Mimi, Papa, Nana, and Papa.
We have Mimi and Papa, too.
I think, is that Jewish? Not really.
Oh, Mimi was just like how James said grandma. He didn't even plan it.
Yeah, right. We
It's
like
like
June
kind of
5th.
like, it's like a hot grandma name a little.
Well, it's so funny that you say that because my mom is, I feel like all of our moms were like young grandparents.
Yeah.
And my mom was very worried that she would get like an old lady grandma name because the
Granny.
kids dictate it.
Yeah, they do.
Like that's what they can. So we had my cousins, their grandma, they call her Grammarella. So we were like, we could go that route. We could make it Glamma. We had all kinds of things planned, but June made it Mimi.
I love Mimi. I think it's very sleek.
cute.
It's chic. Excuse me.
Chic. Yeah, I'm Mimi.
I
Yeah, I love that.
All right. Well, welcome everyone, and I'm thrilled to be here, just the two of us today, because sometimes we have guests, which is very fun, but it's also great just to yap with just us.
Just us. Especially because we have very similar lived experiences when it comes to the grandparents in our life.
I agree. And yeah, it's complex. So there's a lot to dive into. Why don't we give like a very, very tactical, I guess, just for our own histories, like relationship wise and location wise, it's important to understand some people like are super close with their parents, but they live a plane ride away and they might not get to be with them all that often. And that probably dictates some aspect of the relationship.
Absolutely.
Very much so. My parents live 2 blocks away from me, or I should say I moved 2 blocks away from my childhood home where my parents still live. So they like pop over to borrow a cup of sugar situation. And you even more so.
Even more so, yeah. About 2 years ago, my parents moved into the same house as me. So we are roommates once again. And yes, it is a hoof for sure. I think before we dive into all of the stuff we want to talk about today, we want to name that this can be either a really joyful topic for you or also a really complicated one or a very, very sad and difficult one. So we'll share our experiences. We want to hear about yours too. We also recognize that this episode might not be for everybody, and that's okay. And if talking about your relationship with your parents is triggering, we will see you next week.
We sure will.
Another yap.
Yes, and it's impossible for us to be able to address or personally connect with every single situation. Like,
totally.
If you've lost a parent, I couldn't even dream of the pain and, I don't know, just parenting experience without your parents. It's not something I can understand. So it's something I can certainly, empathize with. But it's, again, if you've had experiences outside of our own, we are here for you. We would love to talk to you. And this episode may or may not feel like a fit, as Maddie said.
Yeah. So let's jump in. I think now that people know my parents live with me, your parents are right down the road. That wasn't our exact circumstance when we had our first kids, but when we had our first babies, our parents were super involved and super by our side. I think if your parents are around physically and emotionally, that is so awesome. That's the village. That is what you hope for. If you have a good relationship with your parents, you're like, oh my gosh, watching my parents become grandparents is so cool. And there's nothing like having your mom around to take care of you while you're taking care of your new babe.
Yeah, it is. The postpartum experience is hellish for many, and having that support can certainly feel important, I guess is the word. But
I think too, before you go into that, I think too, something that I forget a lot and try to remind myself a lot is that until 2 generations ago, people lived in the same town, most often, like, the same block as
Yeah.
generations of their family, and that's how people were raised, even in cities, maybe more so in cities, and, like, for my family, like, in tenement housing, so
Mm.
multiple generations of family were there, and that's how I very luckily was raised too, and I think societally that has changed so much,
Right,
and
so you weren't expected to parent alone because it was set up to
never.
be a communal experience.
Totally. Well said, Em. And I think that for some people, that is still the lived experience. It was for me, but for some, it isn't. And I think that can be really hard too. Naming that you're going through so much in the postpartum period, and also navigating new relationships. So it is really beautiful, and it can be just logistically so helpful. It's awesome for emotional support. Actually, I just saw, have you seen this video Olivia Culpo posted? Okay, we're gonna have to boop interject it. Boop.
Here, check it
Um,
out.
check it out. Olivia Culpo posted a video of, it was her, she had a baby recently, and it's a bunch of POV videos, and she says, "Everyone says you're doing so well in postpartum." Oh, I'm gonna cry already. But the rest of the video is her own mom. The rest of the video is her own mom taking care of her so beautifully.
Mm.
Um and it is so awesome to see. You can really tell that, Olivia Culpo's mom was, like, waiting for the day to jump into
Oh,
grandparent
so
mode, like,
special.
so special, oh, yeah, so
This
that
is
gives
the
me all the
reaction Olivia
feels.
Culpo wanted her audience
I
to
know.
have when posting the video. Maddie, she got you.
She got me. Girl, you know what you're doing. But it really was so beautiful, and I've seen so many other people share stories like that, and I have friends who have stories like that, um whose moms made them, like, their, postpartum teas and tinctures, and, we're able to show up, in the ways that they need it, and it's just so cool. It really can feel like such a blessing.
Were you Olivia Culpo in your postpartum experiences with your mom? Because I didn't, well, we'll talk about me, but I want to hear, like, did you have that loving sort of support, physical
Ye
touch experience?
So, I had something like it. Um My mom and I never had that kind of relationship to begin with. She and I are very, very close. We have a beautiful relationship, and while it's complex like every other mother-daughter relationship, um, it felt so good to have her by my side when I had my first. Um, yeah, she's definitely not the tea and tincture lady, but she's the laundry lady, she's the hold the baby while you cry lady. So I was very lucky in that regard. But
That
I wanna
is
hear, what was
wonderful.
your
No,
experience like?
that's so beautiful, and I can only imagine how it contributed to your own healing and your own
Totally.
bonding with your daughter,
Oh, yeah.
and watching your mom be a grandma is so special.
It is so special. What was your experience like?
Yeah, it's
As
so
I use
interesting
a
because
dirty
we've
T-shirt to
you know,
pat my eyes,
do what you
and
do, it's
we're out
alright.
here in the real world. Okay,
We are.
continue.
So, my mom and I have also always been very, very close to a point where I think it's almost an enmeshment of
Yep.
sorts.
I
Um,
believe they call that codependency in
something
psychology.
Yeah, and I think my pulling away from her as, like,
Mm,
teenagers do, like,
yep,
when you see teenagers, like, rebelling from home, right? Or,
yep,
like, a lot of teenagers would take the car when they're not supposed to or
right.
sneak out or whatever. I didn't really have that experience growing up. I was very, I don't know, I was like a homebody, and
Yeah,
I was just, like, very into being with my parents.
right.
I'd, like, rather, like, watch Friends with my mom on a Friday night than, like, go party. I just, like, wasn't that
I
kid,
love that.
but I think the not even rebellion because I'm almost 40. The pulling away, I think for me happened more like the Declaration of Independence for me happened more as an adult than it did as a child or as a teenager. And I'm not
Interesting.
really sure why. Maybe I needed her more growing up. I have a very complicated medical history, as I know you
Yep.
do too. And my mom and I went through that together.
Right.
And I think that the history of the trauma probably that
Yeah.
we've had as me as an adolescent and her as like a caregiver for someone who was
Mhm.
like unwell a lot
Yeah.
prolonged the like closeness and
Totally.
codependency.
I get that.
And so I think the again, the like independence or the defiance, not even defiance, just the like, this is me now. I am
Right.
grown and I am a mother now. And
Yep.
I don't want to or need to feel parented as a child. And I
Interesting.
think from my mom's perspective, to give her the like respect she deserves, probably was like, well, I'm just trying to care for you as an adult mother now. Like, I
Right.
want, to your point, like to be there for you and help you and give you advice. And my brain was like, I don't want it. Like, I can do this. I can do this. I can make the decision. I can
Right.
decide if I want to breastfeed. I can decide if I want company. And
Yep.
she probably felt very, I don't know, cast aside in a lot of ways. And
Yeah.
she was very involved. I mean, like we lived now we live right around the corner. At the time
Right.
with James, we lived in Brooklyn. So we were 45 minutes away. So she would
Right.
come, she'd bring us food. She's
Oh,
very much a caregiver. And I think I probably was at fault of like not being as open to it as
right.
maybe she was willing to give. And so
Yeah.
in reflection, I think that that was maybe something that I don't know, like, I've always wanted to be a mom, and now that I
Right.
am, I wanted to be able to sort of feel confident in the choices I was making and not feel like I needed to, like, ask my mom what to do. And so I've
Totally.
always felt this kind of like, I am a mother, but I am a daughter, and I have a mother, but is she the mother of me as a mother? Does that make sense?
Yes,
Like
absolutely. No, I think that it really brings up such an important piece of grandparents i- as a topic is just that generational change.
right,
Um and how every generation handled parenting differently. Our kids are going to parent their kids very differently than we've parented them and on and on and on. And I think, when you and I were chatting about this episode, you brought this up about I'm blinking. I
well, we were
literally just lost
talking
my train of
about
thought. I looked up and was like, "Oh, a dirt thing."
well, it's important too.
Cut that part out.
We were
No.
talking about parenting
Oh,
in
responding to
yeah.
yeah.
Like,
Okay. So
does your parenting style continue your own childhood
right.
the way you were parented, or
Right.
does your parenting style sort of try to change the way you were parented?
Yeah, I think it is such an interesting question because many people will choose to parent the same way they were parented. They raise their kids like they were raised,
Well,
and
and that's
others
natural, right? Because like, you
totally.
don't know maybe another way to do it, so you just carry
Right.
on with what was your normal.
Yeah, and I think we hear so many times when we're talking to moms, like, in Joy on Call, um, they'll say, like, "Oh, my mom said," or my mother-in-law said, "Well, I did it this way."
Right.
And, those are little tough things to hear too. In the early postpartum period, you're questioning yourself already, and then someone who you love so much and have so much respect for and trust, hopefully, is saying not to do it that way, and you're like, "Wait, but the professional said I had to do it that way," or like this blogger. It's
Yeah, or
a
like
lot
even
of information at once.
your own instincts, like, "But I feel
Totally.
like I should do this," and, like, now you're telling me that that's wrong? Like, well,
Yeah.
what else can I trust about myself?
Ooh, yeah,
What
motherhood.
else do I need to be coached on if this was wrong? Like, it makes you
Yeah.
second guess yourself.
I really, love how you're being so open about that right now because I think it's something that you might not even realize you're
Yeah,
going through in the moment. You're able to say this with 7 years of reflection.
right.
Um, so if you are feeling questioned by your mother, your mother-in-law, or your father or your
Sure.
father-in-law, you're in general,
That's true.
um, That is normal, and, we have some tips and tricks for you for the early postpartum period, but just on into life, um, as your relationship with your parents change, as they become grandparents, is just really trying to balance the gratitude with the boundaries.
One other thing that relates to this is I don't know if you felt this about your mom or your dad, is almost like they see being grandparents as like a redoing of being
Ooh,
parents.
1,000%.
And so, like, I feel like at least my mom, again, respectfully,
Mhm. We love
has, like,
you,
a
mom.
revisionist history. Like, she's like, "Well, when you guys were growing up, I never did blah, blah, blah." I'm like,
Uh,
"But you did. You're
right.
you're wanting it to be different because you
Yep.
you wish you did it differently, maybe, or you wish you were able to redo something, and now you
Totally.
kinda think you can, and you're almost redoing it through coaching me to do it or, like,
Yes.
teaching me to do it, and it's like, but that wasn't the decision you made, and that's
Right.
fine, and, like,
Right.
I'm n somewhat normal and healthy and fine, so, like,
Right.
I will be able to, like, make those mistakes myself
Yep.
or whatever. So it feels like there's this, like, going back and undoing or redoing, I think, from the
Yes.
perspective of grandparents. I'm trying to think of, like, some
Absolutely.
specific examples, and I'm
I
sure I
mean,
could.
while I will say a few things about that while you're thinking, is that maybe we should have named this episode Yapping About Generational Trauma, but as
Yapping about
a
Happy Grandparents Day.
have we started Happy Grandparents Day, and then we're like, "We can't even talk to our moms." No, but I think it all is, of course, all very, very interconnected in how you were parented, how they were parented
How they were
generationally,
parented. You're
how
right.
they were parented. Absolutely. Look, it is helpful to be a mental health counselor, but I
Right,
don't think you have to be one to know that we are all just a sum of our parts and a sum of our experiences.
right,
And we are so blessed, meaning you and me and the women of our generation, and the children of the future generations, that we are out here unpacking it psychologically and learning so much about how it can impact us as adults. And so we are lucky that we have access to those resources, that we give our kids access to those resources. Our parents did not have that. And so in
yeah.
many ways, people talk about healing your inner child. And I think as you age, you also learn that you need to heal your inner every stage of you.
Mm.
And I think that grandparents and maybe, our moms specifically are trying to do that work in that way.
Yeah, it's such a good point, and it's so true, just like I'm parenting as a reflection of how I grew up. She did the
Totally.
same thing, and she brought with her her own experience that I don't even know
Yeah.
about because I that was before my time, so
Right.
I can see that it just
Yeah.
carries on, and she always says, like, "I was a little bit better of a mother than my mother was, and you'll be better than I
Yep.
was," and it's like, "Well, what's better? Like, what does that
What is
mean?"
better? I also think something very interesting that comes up amongst women, whether they are related or not, is that sort of the really only way I can think to say it, and this isn't exactly right, is that like scarcity mindset almost. It's like if you're a really good mom, it makes her less of a mom because if
Oh,
you're
wow.
doing it differently and it's going well, it is
It
making her reflect that she did something wrong.
Oh my gosh, I mean, I hate that, but I love
Yeah,
that. Right, it's like I'm not proving her wrong by doing
correct.
something right,
It's
but
just
it could
different.
feel that way.
Yeah. I know for a fact that it feels that way for my mom sometimes. We try to work through that together the best ways we can. And, you know, it is so complicated.
Can
And
you
I
give an
think
example of how that comes up? Because I think it's a really good point, and it might feel good to have a
sure.
specific.
Yes. Okay. Let me try to think of some that aren't gonna break me open immediately. Um, all right. Like something she feels like I should do differently.
No, or something you did differently that went well that then disproved her doing
Ah,
the
okay,
thing.
okay, okay. I would say in general, I have navigated parenthood until pretty recently under the what we would nowadays call, like, gentle
Yeah.
parenting.
Yeah.
Um, I never raised my voice. I never try to instill fear on purpose to get something I want out of my kids. Not to say that if you do those things, they are wrong. Those are just, like, not that is not my parenting
You're not
style.
your style.
And I think, a good example of how we would bump heads on this, I would say, is that my middle brother, so I have 2 younger brothers, the middle one had severe tantrums when he was younger,
Yeah.
and there was a period of time that we just, like, could not go anywhere as a family, like, he couldn't we, like, couldn't get him out of the house, and he's only 2 years younger than me, so I have some actual memories of it, but more memories of the
Right.
stories that my
Right.
parents tell. But, back then, we didn't know that tantrums are kids asking to be met with love and asking for things they don't know how to ask for otherwise. They're tired, they're hungry,
Yeah.
they're really basic things that now it's like, "Oh my god, that's so obvious." My mom and I joke all the time about how did she not know to bring snacks to school pickup
Right.
because he to this day, "Alec, I love you, but you are a hangry boy." And she would pick him up from school, and he would be so hungry that he would immediately melt down.
Yeah.
And why didn't it occur to her to just, like, have snacks in the car? Why would that have occurred to her?
Sure.
So things like that, I forget to bring snacks in the car, but my youngest is going through a very, very difficult tantrum, really huge emotional outburst phase,
Mhm.
and I handle it very differently than my parents handled it with my brother because
And
I
right.
know how I should, quote unquote, be handling it.
Well, and you know what works for Lucy.
Right.
So
And you
what
know what?
y
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, when your mom sees you making those different choices, does that, like,
I
does she get
think
PTSD of like, "Oh gosh, I should have done this differently," or does she
yes,
like
she does. You know, credit to my mom hugely that even though she won't go to therapy like I beg her to, she is definitely reflective. And she will talk a lot about how, like, she loses patience more quickly with Lucy because she's losing patience with me not handling it
Yeah, yeah.
how she would have handled it. And I think on and on into varying degrees of the situation, but I feel like that is a pretty good example of how it can feel like you're butting heads.
But you're not parenting Lucy differently than what she did to spite her, to say,
Right.
like,
Or to be
"I'm
like,
doing this
you.
different, mom. You did this wrong, and I'm doing it better." It's
Right.
like, you're just a different parent, and Lucy's a different
Totally.
kid, and the time and the circumstances are different. You're
The
not doing this.
circumstances are different, and one thing I just wanna hammer home so hard is that our knowledge base is
Right.
different. Like, it is very hard not to judge your parents for how they raised you. It just is. Every human goes through it. You're just like it's just like how you judge other people's parenting before you become a parent yourself. You're like, "I
Mhm.
would never let my kids do this." And you say to yourself, "Oh my god, I would never talk to my kids that way." And guess what? I talk to my kids I hear my mother's voice come out of my
Oh
mouth
my gosh, all the time,
all
all
the
the time.
time.
Oh my gosh.
So it is very difficult, and we also need to give them the respect that they're owed and that they were doing it with
Yeah.
1,000
Yeah,
times
of
less
course.
information than we are now. And our kids are gonna look back and be like, "You didn't know that gentle parenting created XYZ?"
Which is so funny because now my
You
mom
know?
thinks she's like a gentle parent. I'm like, "You didn't that wasn't." This is what I'm saying,
Yeah.
it's like a revisionist situation. I'm like,
Right,
"You think."
totally. And I
I
think, look, like I said earlier, like that is probably her trying to kind of rid herself of some of the
Exactly,
also natural guilt of like
exactly.
feeling like you screwed up.
Right,
We
right.
go through it now, and I know that every mom who is listening, many dads who are listening, know the exact feeling I'm about to say is that it doesn't matter how old your kid is, you already feel like you screwed them up
Right,
somehow. It's like every decision you make feels very, very weighty,
very permanent.
very permanent. Like, we'll talk about this in other episodes in other ways, like, nothing is permanent
No.
as long as you are leading with love and keeping your kids
I
safe.
also think that the parenting style of today is a lot more reflective on how they're parenting than our parents were. Like, they probably weren't
Yes,
even thinking about parenting. It's just you just did it. Now it's like,
totally.
what kind of parent are you?
Yep,
Or how did you handle this situation? What are you going to do differently? Which is great. Like, it probably
yes,
makes us much more, I don't know, much more adaptable and much more like, reflective of whatever. But like,
yes,
I think parenting as, like, an art or, like, as a skill,
yes,
parenting
wow, I
as,
just
like,
got
a
goosebumps, and, like,
it just
that
wasn't
is
like nobody was like I
they
don't
weren't
think, I
thinking
mean, I
about it.
wasn't I wasn't parenting then, but I don't think it was really talked about to the point, like, where there was no, like, parent yap in 1986.
No, no, there sure wasn't, and I think about my mom always talks about, like, playgroup,
Right,
and it was
playgroup.
her and her, like, 5 best friend who became her 5 best
Yes.
friends, who had kids within the same 2 months of each other in the same town, and that was their parent yap. But they had access to that information and that information only. We
But yeah,
are
there was not like a honing of your skills of parenting in the
no.
same way from what I understand. The other thing I was gonna say, um, about the, like, past, like, my mother
Yeah.
will do this thing where, like, Eden, my daughter, will do something, like, she'll, like, be mean to a kid or, like, she'll be really shy, and my mom will say, "Oh, you how do you think that feels?" Like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Well," like, she'll be, like, telling me, like, it's almost like
Yes.
"I went through this so this was such how do you like, now you're dealing" like, it's almost like a
Right. How do you like it?
how do you like it? Or like,
Yeah,
exactly, like, "See, I told you so." Like,
totally.
you gave me such a hard time. See, it's like, now you're getting
Right,
the, like,
right.
your
The
version
universe,
of
the
this.
k the karmic come up.
Right. And it's like, well, why am I being blamed for how I acted as a 2-year-old? Like, I don't
Yep.
need to feel bad about my
You
own
sure don't.
social ineptitude as a child in
You sure
now
don't.
showing that my daughter like, what did I, like, get pit pull like, it this isn't like a tit for tat, like,
Right.
situation.
And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier is feeling judged by your parents or, elder loved ones. Is that it's like, what are you trying to say here?
Right.
Like and I think it is really hard. It's so interesting because while our experiences with our moms are very, very similar, they are different in funny ways in that what I get from my mom in those scenarios is like, "Oh, you were never like this." And it's like,
Mm.
"Okay, well, should I have been more like
Right,
this?" Like,
like, don't
how
go back.
she's being isn't bad.
Yeah.
She's 2, she's 3, she's 5, she's 7. Like, I'm looking back, I'm like, "Was I, like, pushing down my feelings?" Like, what as a
Mm.
5-year-old, 7-year-old, should I have been so concerned with how I was behaving in public? So I
Oh.
think it's so the spectrum, like anything else with parenting, is so vast,
Yeah.
and you can experience the same depth of feelings on both sides. We're getting the same feeling for
It's
it
the
in a
same
different
result
way.
for sure.
Same result.
How do you like, if the topic we'll talk about for a minute is advice, how do you feel about advice coming from your mother as opposed to or your father, as
Yep.
opposed to coming from a friend? Because to me, it feels very different. And I would love to hear how you think of parenting advice or advice about your
Yeah.
kids directly from your own parents.
I think, like everything else we've discussed up until this point, that it is so dependent on your previous relationship, and it is so dependent on how you view how you were parented.
Like, I'll give you an example. Let's just
Okay, give
say
me
a
an example.
scenario.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, this is I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but we're
Too.
going on vacation in a couple months, my
Yeah.
family. We're
Mhm.
going away somewhere warm, which will be lovely.
Oh,
Um, my daughter is 4.5. She does not know how to swim, which I think
yep.
is pretty normal for a 4.5-year-old. But one piece of advice my mother potentially could give me, she actually hasn't said this, but I know she's thinking it, is, "Well, you gotta get her swim lessons before you go away." And it's like,
Okay, wait. Before
I
we move forward,
Yes.
and we can or cannot include this, but can I ask you something? Do you recognize that she hasn't said it yet, but your body and your mind is reacting as if she had?
Um, yes, always. I don't need her to say it because my mother is the type of parent and the type of mother who's been asked so many times to, like, keep it in her own head that
Okay,
I can
yes.
read it from her head to the point where it
That is
doesn't
what I
actually
want.
matter.
Yeah, that is what I wanted you to say out loud because I think so many times we are, first of all, judging ourselves, but also knowing your parent so well, they
Yeah,
don't have to say it out loud.
absolutely not.
Continue.
Absolutely not. It's like you hear that the voice in your head, whether or not
Yep.
yeah, totally. This is a made up example. Well, we are going away, but this is a made up
Yes.
there have been many of these. I don't know. This
Yes,
was
yes,
just one
yes.
of the ones. Okay. So we're going away. My daughter cannot swim. I would love her to be able to swim. We've done a lot of trying to get her to swim. My
Yep.
mother, her advice might be, well, you got to get her swim lessons before you go away. And it's like,
Right.
well, I think I also agree that I should
Right.
get her swim lessons before I go away,
Right.
but my own pattern with my mother is that, like, I don't wanna get her the swim lessons because she told me to get her the swim
Yeah, yeah,
lessons. Like,
yeah.
I know I should get her
You
swim lessons, and I don't wanna, like it's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, like, don't
Right.
count this."
No shit,
I
mom.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, I got it.
Right.
Well, like, what if I don't want to? What if she's not ready to swim? What if it's like,
Yeah.
I'll put a floaty on her and she'll be completely fine. So,
And
like
vacation will be great
and
and
vacation
safe.
will be great and safe. It's like, I don't wanna hear it because I'm either
Yeah.
gonna do it the way that I know or a different way, and either way, it'll be okay. So the advice to me is laden with judgment and
Okay.
laden with, yeah, I guess
I
that
think this is an important part of the conversation as it relates to grandparents is that our parents grew up in a time with very little to no outside influence
Mm,
outside of their families. We grew up in a time where there was more what we would have and they would have considered a significant outside influence on their parenting and child rearing. By then there were parenting experts, parenting books, Dr. Ferber, Dr. Spock,
but it was more like how to and not
more how to,
like we were saying before, it was less like your approach.
less your approach, and it was very limited and everybody in general had access to those things and nothing else. We are the first generation of parents who are inundated with parenting advice from the moment we open our eyes, like actually 24/7 because like I have dreams and nightmares about parenthood.
Yeah, and the
So it's like
moment you conceive or prior to conceiving
right.
until, forevermore.
You and I think you don't really realize it at first. And if you zoom out a little, it's like even look, you're listening to a podcast for
Yeah,
parenting advice. Like we
right.
are here to give you advice coming from a place of love and support. And it's just, you know, it comes from all ways. And I think that it can feel so overwhelming as a new parent, hence why we started Joy Parenting Club, is to synthesize that crazy level of information in the world. So I think that when you hear from a person that you just want to be supported
Right.
by, so you just had a baby, you are becoming a new person yourself,
Yeah.
at your very, very deepest core, all you want is your mommy. It's like we all go back to being babies. It can be very hard to take advice when it's like, but like, can you just support me in whatever I do or say? Is
Right.
that fair to ask them?
Or let
Mm,
me change as a person. It's like the person who's known you the longest, aka
Yep.
your mother, and potentially has known you the best or think they know you the best.
Right.
To me, it feels very like I'm not being like if I were to have met my mother a woman, she would know my current version of my current self. But she knows Emily at 38, 37, 36, 35,
Right.
34, all the way down to 0. And so what I
Yeah.
think is as like, I think she's approaching our relationship with almost like too much of the younger versions of me and
Yeah,
not as much of the current versions of me where like everyone changes, everyone
of
grows
course.
and you have qualities that you no longer have than that you had when you were 14.
1,000%.
I don't want to be my 14-year-old self. I want to get rid of my
Ah,
14-year-old self. I want to be
yes,
my
yep,
38-year-old self. So like I want to be treated as a new
right,
person in a way.
yep,
So I think that that's actually a big sort of like underlying kind of anxiety or
absolutely.
tension in at least my relationship with my
Yeah,
parents.
absolutely, and I think that is a ubiquitous experience of motherhood. I feel it happening already with my 7-year-old.
Right,
I'm like, "Wait a second, you're 7?" Like, I still wanna treat her like she's 5,
right.
is where I feel, like, comfortable being like, "My 5-year-old," and she is not a 5-year-old. So, it is in a lot of ways, it's a lose-lose, dude.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard, and I think, the grass is always greener. I have friends who have 0 parental support physically and would kill for their parents to live in their house or 2 blocks away, and, we have our moments where it's like, "Damn, I wish I saw my parents 3 times a year." I actually don't. Saying that out loud is a lie. Like, I would not like that,
Right.
but it never feels like the right
It
amount.
never felt right, and I feel like your closeness with them and even mine, it's not like you're, like, waiting for the grandparent to come over. It's never like a special moment where you're seeing your
Right,
grandparents. It's like
right,
they're
right, they're
always
just
around.
yes, and, honestly, the coolest part about that, and the part that keeps me going when I'm like, "Can I keep doing this?" is that now we know better than ever, like so many other things, like, that's actually so awesome for your kids.
Right, we were gonna say there's some research that shows that growing up in a multi-generational environment is
Yep.
not only better for your kids, for you, but also for your parent, for the
Yes.
grandparent, right? Like, it's
Every generation
yeah,
benefits
right.
from multi-generational living. It's like, I think the stat we got from the Pew Center is 20% of households are now multi-generational,
Huh,
and it is a
that's
growing
more than I
trend.
would have thought.
Me too, but when I zoomed out a little, it's like, yeah, it's 'cause, like, we're millennials are poor. Help me, I'm poor. So, like, we're moving back in with our parents are moving with us to support. Divorce rates are up, that's why my parents live with me, so I think we'll see that number increase, and it will be cool to see how the studies show it impacting
Mm,
all the generations. But for kids, it's linked to building stronger social skills,
yep,
more resilience, and like we were talking about earlier, reducing stress in their parents. Like I am, for the most part, less stressed because I have my parents' help every day.
of course, and I should say, despite my complaints and venting, the benefits of having close parents, both emotionally, physically,
Right.
location-wise, are so that we chose to live next to them for a reason.
Right.
Like, we could
Exactly.
have moved very far away, and we chose to stay close. And the closeness, like, what I see in my kids when they see my parents, they light up, they
Yes.
are so happy, and when I see my dad with his
Oh my
grandkids,
God.
it is beautiful. It is
It's
really
so
and
beautiful.
even things like traditions, like,
Oh,
you and I both have, like, Jewish upbringings, but, like, being
yes.
able to celebrate holidays, being able to, like, design our own family traditions. We
Yep.
we live so close, we bike ride to their house, they come outside. It's beautiful, it's amazing. So we are giving it I hope we're giving it a full spectrum of a look
We are,
of
and
everything.
and we will give some more full spectrum before we wrap up. We'll
Yeah.
give some, like, tips and tricks, but I do think that that's how I was raised, and
Yeah.
I am so grateful for being raised that way. Like, when people ask me what my childhood was like, nobody has a perfect childhood, but I had about as close as you can get. I
So
feel
great.
so blessed to have been raised with multiple generations with that kind of proximity because that is really the grandparent magic is the like seeing your kids light up when they see your parents. There's nothing like it. My parents live with me. My kids see them as many days a week as They see me, and when my dad walks in the door from work, my youngest goes ballistic,
Yeah,
like she
it's
hasn't seen
so
him in a year.
special.
They call each other Penguin. It's a
Stop
long
it.
story, but it's so like, if she sees him, like, in public, she'll be like, "That's my Pengy!" Like, that's their thing, it's the
No.
cutest. But she'll have seen him, Tuesday
Yeah,
morning
yeah,
and Tuesday afternoon, evening, when she sees him, she's like, "Pengy!" Like, slam hugs him. You cannot bottle that shit,
no,
and it's really special.
it really is wonderful,
Yeah.
and
My oldest wants to sleep with my mom, like, every
yep,
single night. They do, like, cute sleepovers. They have the most special relationship like I had with my grandma, and
yeah.
it was so amazing to see and such a blessing even, when there are tough times too.
Let's talk about boundaries.
Let
Because I think it's important to be able to, whether you have even similar parenting styles from your parents or not, how do you make it clear that your parenting choices might be different than their choices or their advice? And that
Yeah.
is okay because
Yep.
you are parenting your own children in the way that you feel is right. So, like bedtime routines,
Yeah.
or for us is a big one, food choices,
Mhm.
or scheduling. What are some tips we can give people to make
Yeah.
boundaries clear and to, like, set that relationship up for success?
Yeah, I think it depends on what the boundary is. If it's an emotional boundary, it can feel a lot harder, and you can say things like very openly, "I'm feeling emotional about this and really need some space to make a decision as a parent
Mm.
without your advice." That might feel really hard to say. So you could say things like, "Thanks for your advice, mom. I would really appreciate if you just let me make my own decision."
Huh.
Things like that. But I think when it comes to more specific things like food rules, like if it's allergies or preferences, if it's sleep or bedtime routines, like screen time,
Oh, screen time.
screen time.
Yep.
I think if you're coming from a place of love for your kids and for your parents, which is the best place to come from when you're setting a boundary, you can be kind but firm and just say it straight. Mom, dad, the rule at my house is that they get 30 minutes of screen time after school and then the screens go off no matter what. I would really appreciate if you would do that at your house too. Flat out. Like, it takes me back to middle school, but it's like the I statements. Like,
Mm.
instead of saying, like, "You can't let them watch TV for more than 30 minutes," it's, "I made this rule, and I would appreciate if you would respect it." And the same for sleep and bedtime. Look, like, do the wheels come off if your kids are at your grandparents' house? Or do the wheels come off if your kids are with their grandparents sometimes? Yes, and that is also part of the beauty of it. Like, sometimes at Grammy and Grampy's, there can be no rules, and that is part of the fun.
It is
But if
so the opposite at mine is like, "What do you mean they stayed up until 9? Here they're in bed by 7:15, no problem." What do you what
Must
do
be
you mean?
nice.
They didn't watch, no screens were turned on. What? Oh, they ate perfectly.
It's another example of the generational thing, like, most of the moms of our parents' generation did not work
Right.
outside of the home, and
Mine did,
so
but many
I was
did
gonna
not.
say, mine did too when we were older. I
Mm.
mean, she's a bad bitch entrepreneur, so she owned her own businesses
Go
and,
mom.
like, yeah, so but when we were older, when we were younger, she didn't work or she had, like, this job at the cutest little kids' clothing store, but, like, they didn't have the same kind of, nervous system rot, to put it mildly, that
Sure.
we have now. And they also have greater capacity to handle our kids' bullshit because 'cause they're not handling
That's
it
true
as
all
much
the
as we
time.
are.
Totally, and your kids are always better when they're not at home.
1,000%,
So it
1,000%.
is true. But, yeah, so
So
the
I think
boundaries, I think, like, you gotta make the boundary with yourself if you're a single parent, or
Yep,
with your partner if you are
yep,
together in a relationship. Come to terms and feel comfortable with that, with you
yep,
as by yourself or with another person, and then make it clear to your parents. To your point, we allow a bedtime snack. I'm making this up.
right.
My our kids can have a graham cracker before bed to keep their bellies full. Our kids have a banana before they go to sleep.
Right.
Um, that's the choice we're making.
That's the choice we're making. Yep. Yep, though that is a great way to say it too, and I think that if you do have a relationship with your parents where setting boundaries feels hard, that is your red flag to set them ASAP when
Yeah.
you have kids, because if setting boundaries feels really hard, it means you need to set them,
Well, that's
and
exactly right. Because it might be like, well, then why is this so hard for you? Like, why is it hard to set the boundary? Is it hard for you to Right,
because setting boundaries very often makes the people that you are setting the boundaries for feel rejected. And so, s- setting boundaries, if somebody tells you you can't do something you want to do, even if they're saying it in the nicest way possible, it can be difficult not to feel like they're telling you you did something wrong or you're
right,
doing something wrong. And so, being really clear that I'm not setting this boundary, if it comes up or if it feels hard, being really clear that I'm not setting this boundary because you did something wrong, or I'm not setting this boundary because I don't trust you. I'm
right.
setting this boundary because this is what works for my family and I need your support on it.
Totally, totally. And what happens when the boundaries are not followed or carried out?
I think you have to take a very deep breath before you do anything else. I
Yeah,
think having your boundaries disrespected or broken is very difficult in any relationship, but none more so than in a parent child relationship when those boundaries are threatened. It is just like a threat to your psyche. So recognize that when you feel that way, it's normal. Um, and I think to the extent that you can have a really honest relationship, to the extent that you can have a really honest conversation about how it made you feel, have it. And if you can't have it with them, have it with a
right.
therapist.
We have to make very strong choices on what support we ask for because
Mhm.
it it become we sort of like can snowball into it
Totally.
being line crossing.
Yep.
So we ask for very specific help. So I think that's
Yes.
another tip is like instead of just saying like we need support, it's like, well, what do you need them to do?
Right.
Like
Hey,
we
mom.
would love if you could pick her up at 5 o'clock and drive her to soccer on Monday. Thank you. Like that is some like think about the
Yes.
kind of support that you need instead of being general because one thing can lead to another and then all of a
Totally.
sudden things can feel a little bit out of control.
Absolutely. And I think that is super helpful, actionable advice when your kids are a little bit older in that early postpartum period, or if your family is around when you have an infant, saying things like, it would be so great if you could fold the laundry,
Right.
or it would be so great if you could do the dishes from dinner, or it would be so great if you hold the baby while I shower. Things like that, that are not telling them what they can't do, but asking them to do something that is gonna help you too. Coming at it that way can make a huge difference.
Very much so. All
So,
right.
I know we covered so much in this
Did.
episode, and I think, we could go on and on forever, but today, we were yapping about
Yes.
grandparents, where you're traumatized for life.
No, baby.
No,
Where
where the support is generational and
right.
so are the wounds.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think that can be the wrap up for after the yap, for the
Okay.
sadder side of these things, but I
No,
think we can
yapping
say
about grandparents where the gifts are both wrapped and wrapped.
unraveling. Yapping about grandparents where the boundaries are as essential as the love and support.
Yeah, that is true. And again, if you feel like this episode was not your experience, we have coaches and experts who are just here to listen and here to give
Yep.
you the support you need. And
Any old time. Reach out and we are happy to talk through it all.
see you next time, yappers.
See you next. Wait, can we also just show everyone how we're leveling up? See you next time, yappers, with our mics.
See you next time. I hope this worked. If it didn't,
I
we'll be
know.
re recording this
I know.
tomorrow.
Okay, bye.
Bye.